Yeah. Welcome to the last retort on the Global Voice Broadcasting Network. Today's episode is brought to you by Pacific City Escrow. That's Escrow Evolved. Check them out at pacificcityescrow.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the last retort. I'm Chris Wiggins. You've got Matt Fahey in the building.
Hello, hello.
All right, and we have a great guest that I've been trying to get for a long time, and I am extremely honored to have her, the ever so talented. I think her reputation precedes her. But we got Fox 11. We've got a Syracuse Newhouse alumni, Araksya Karapetyan. How we doing?
We're doing well. Wow. I don't know if I can follow up with that introduction. Thank you.
Oh, it is well deserved. It is you've become quite the institution just within Los Angeles and within news. And as I've mentioned multiple times, you're the reason I started watching morning news, like yourself and Tony and just the whole crew. Like before, I thought of it as, hey, I was like, you get up in the morning and then like you have like this giant party. Well, you guys do have a party too, but you guys are so professional, fun, and there's such camaraderie, and I learn a lot, so I really appreciate that.
Thank you. That is a huge compliment. I appreciate that.
Definitely. I completely mean it, and I love anyone that went to Syracuse as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
The orange.
Yeah, the orange. Yeah, anyone that could pay that tuition and go there and and then
suffer through the winters.
Exactly. Yeah. That takes a lot. Like to say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna spend 4 years in Syracuse, and people, well, where's that? They're like New York, and then they're like, oh, do you get to go to Times Square? I'm like, oh, no.
Not quite what I had in mind either.
Yeah, I get to go to Schenectady, Rome, and Troy, New York, right?
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, we have a great show, and we're gonna get into a bunch of things, but I want to kind of start it off walking through your background as. Many people may not know. Now, you immigrated to the country with the family at about, your age 6 or so?
I was 7.
Oh, 7, okay.
Actually, just on Saturday, the 20th of April, was the 28-year anniversary of us coming to America.
Wow.
Yeah.
So my mom called me and reminded me, and that night it was 9:30, 10. That's when we touched down at LAX 28 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was crazy because I stopped and thought about just what I remember from that night. I remember just little things as a kid, looking out the window and seeing the palm trees as we're about to land. And I thought we were in Africa because in my mind, when I saw palm trees, I had seen movies growing up and I associated that with Africa.
Yeah.
I imagined I would walk into my own room and I would have Barbie dolls everywhere.
Uh-huh.
The one Barbie doll that had been sent to me as a gift from America, I left behind and gave it to the next door neighbor.
Oh, wow.
So I was thinking, I'm going off to America. I'm going to walk in and there'll be Barbie dolls everywhere. Just little moments like that, or just the drive to our new home, Palos Verdes. It's dark. There are no street lights.
Yeah.
I thought we were going into forest. It was never ending. Like, where the heck are we going right now?
Yeah.
But yes, I remember a lot from that journey, from that day.
Yeah. Now, how did you find yourself acclimating? Like, because I moved to California when I was about 7 as well, but that's only coming from Virginia. You're coming from
a different country.
Almost a different hemisphere. Like, how did you find the acclimation within that first year?
I did not speak any English. The only person who spoke English in my family, and when I say my family, my entire family came. So my grandparents, aunts, uncles, my grandfather's other brother, and his whole family, we all came together.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So it's not the typical immigrant story at all. But my mother was the only one who spoke Armenian. So I didn't speak any English. And I picked up the language quite quickly. I always credit it to watching I Love Lucy. That was the show I grew up watching. Lucille Ball was such an animated character. And you didn't really need to speak the language to understand what was going on because she was just so animated. You could pick up on what was going on. But I always say I learned English by watching her, and that was my favorite show as a kid growing up. And then kids pick up languages so quickly. Just going to school, I was able to, just in a few months, it was interesting. I was in ESL, English as second language, and my goal right away was to get out of that class. I hated it. I wanted to fit in, to blend in, so my goal became, how am I going to get out of ESL as soon as possible? But picked up the language quite quickly, and then, I think it was harder for my family, the older folks, my parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles. They're the ones who left behind their lives, right? Their jobs, their friends, their family, everything they've known. As a kid, you acclimate much more easily, I think. So they were the ones who, you have these careers. Like my grandfather was an engineer in Armenia. He was the head of a big company. And all of a sudden he's here and he's just an average guy. Where down the street, if he walked down the street in Yerevan in Armenia, people knew who he was and he was respected, and all of a sudden he was just a old man.
Yeah.
Those are those moments that you realize, wow, life, you basically are starting over. For a kid, it's much easier.
Definitely. So how was the sort of friend making process, especially being you're in ESL? I'd imagine that you kind of interacted with them heavily, any of the kids there heavily. But in terms of within the community, dude.
I've always been a social kid.
Yeah.
Or a social person.
Still
think of myself
still
as
a social kid. I'm hanging around the Toys R Us's.
No.
Chuck E. Cheese's.
Yeah.
I quickly wanted to blend in, fit in. And so it didn't take long for me to figure out who are the popular kids, and I'm going to be their friend.
Yeah.
And then I would place myself in situations like I was running for, student body president or trying to get really involved quickly.
Yeah.
It's just part of my personality. So that helped. And then I have a huge support system.
Yes.
I have a big family. And so even if I was having a difficult time, I had such a strong foundation that that support system carried me through.
Yeah.
I don't have bad memories, really. So most of them are quite pleasant.
Yeah, that is awesome. Do you still watch I Love Lucy, though?
I do. I've watched every episode 30 times, but I still will watch it as if it's the first time.
Yeah.
Shows like that don't exist. Don't you find that to be true?
They don't.
They don't exist anymore. They kind of wrote the book on those kind of shows back then.
Yeah.
Now everything's just kind of like a reiteration of things that already come
They've
before.
what I really loved about I Love Lucy, because I watched it when I was younger. We never had cable, so that was always on since it was in black and white. And they're like, we'll give this away for free no matter what. No one's advertising on this. But I always loved it. I didn't have a dad in the picture or anything.
Right.
I don't have brothers or uncles or male cousins or anything like that. So I was always around women, and so to kind of have somebody that in black and white, and that those times are old just because it's in black and white, but to have a woman that's carrying the show's named after her, and her to be the center point,
and her best friend Ethel, man.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. There's no damsel in distress.
Although that was for the show. In real life, they didn't like each other and didn't get along.
That's too bad because they had such great chemistry on camera.
No, because Lucy wanted to be the good-looking one, the thin one, the fashionable one, and she she had it so Ethel looked a bit heavier, didn't dress as well, kind of had that frumpy look. So they, in real life, the story goes that they did not get along, which is interesting.
Yeah, that is wild to think. Now, I know you were a huge fan of another show, and you got to interview somebody that I'm very fond of. That's
Who?
Mr. Luke Perry.
Oh, yes.
From 902. So I'm very jealous. The biggest fan, when I moved, even before I moved to California, I was watching 90210 any manner that I can. I was 3, watching all this stuff happen. Right. How was it interviewing someone? How was it interviewing him, number one, right? And then someone that's so kind of prominent, continue.
Well,
Sorry.
I was just going to say, I actually did not actually interview him. It was more just a behind-the-scenes encounter. Usually I do these Facebook Live interviews with the guests that come on lately for Good Day LA.
Yeah.
But he was not down on the list of people. I know it's weird to interview that day. And I just kind of came in passing and at that moment took a picture. It's rare for me to get starstruck. And it's very rare for me to actually want to take a picture with a celebrity. But there's something about when you grow up watching someone like Luke Perry, for me, Dylan, right?
Yes.
All of a sudden, I wanted to have my picture with Dylan because as a kid growing up, he was every girl's crush.
He was my crush, too.
He was your crush, too, or,
he was my man crush. He still
equal
is.
Opportunity. So those are the moments that are exciting for me. It's almost as if a current celebrity wouldn't get me as excited as someone I grew up watching as a kid. There's just something special about that.
Yeah, I think that we kind of when we grow up with something, right, and particularly a TV show, right, and more so TV shows than movies. But when we grow up with it, right, we think this is a part of our childhood, and these characters, right. When you're young, there's not a lot of freedom in terms of movement and really in willpower, right. And you think, all right, I've got this great world of I Love Lucy or 90210, right, and these are my siblings or these are my friends or something. Kind of really, that is really odd. We're not crazy or anything like that, but as you think of that, like you think they grew up with me, right? And so when you see them, it's like boom, it's almost like I'm going back to the jungle gym. You know?
Yeah. No, definitely. There's something to be said about that.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I met Jamal White one time at a party, and I had to get my picture taken.
Is that Urkel?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Exactly right. Family Matters, and growing up with them, you do feel like a connection. So when I saw him, I'm not the kind of person that does that. I give them their space because I know what it's like to be. I'm no celebrity, obviously, but I know what it could be like to be in that situation. You just want to be left the hell alone half the time. So.
Do you ever kind of feel that with what he's saying about the wanting to be left alone? Because like I've seen the Instagram comments that people there's a lot of thirst from guys. Men are terrible. Men are terrible.
I gotta say, I was doing some research on you before, and I was doing YouTube videos. I was like, all right, let's look up what's she on YouTube, and it's literally like just dozens of fan videos that
doing like weather.
Yeah, like the dancing stuff. I'm just like, okay, cool. So she's known for that. I like that. But
I don't think I'm known for that. To be
she's
fair.
known for her hard journalism, not just the dancing.
I don't think I'm known for that's deceptive. If you go on YouTube, that is probably the takeaway.
I had to dig through some
sadly,
stuff to actually get to
get to depth.
Who you are? Yeah, I want to talk. About who you are. I checked out your wiki. You came here in '90, I believe it was. Right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes. It's interesting that you say that because it's funny. The last couple of days, or last 15 days or so, I've been heavily concentrated and focused on what's happening in Armenia currently.
Yeah.
And so I've been posting a lot of articles or videos or pictures and heavily actually doing things with depth instead of just outfit of the day pictures or a selfie.
Thank you.
And I have to say it's so much more fulfilling and gratifying, and I feel just more valuable using my platform in this way.
Yep.
And I'm thinking to myself, why can't I do this all the time? But there's this cycle with social media that has been created where you're just feeding the machine.
Right.
And the truth is, what works oftentimes is a selfie.
Yeah.
A meaningless, thoughtless selfie versus posting an article with some substance.
Yeah.
And
completely agree.
It's so frustrating for me. It really is because I have a joke, and it's true though. I say every time you see me post a selfie, just know that I hate myself.
Oh.
I just hate myself. The second I hit send, I'm like,
what?
Why am I doing this? But it's
you're feeding the machine, right?
I'm feeding the machine, and now with a lot of news stations, they monitor your social media activity and your engagement, and so I don't know how, but I do thankfully do really well on social media. And I have, really loyal, supportive following.
Yeah.
And every day it's a 24-hour cycle with this thing they watch and monitor. And in order to keep the number high, it's not just the quantity of posts, it's also what will get the most likes.
Yes,
engagement.
Exactly.
So, you know what? That article about, I don't know, the president visiting, the Nigerian president visiting the president, which was yesterday, and their meeting.
Yeah.
Maybe that might be more interesting to me, but guess what? That's not going to get very many likes or interest or comments or shares.
Yeah.
What will be a little video of my daughter being cute or me taking a picture of my outfit.
Very cute. Yeah.
Well, see, I would argue that that's connecting you with the everyday, ordinary citizen. That's
why it's nice to do a mix, obviously, because you're a human being, right? You have you have interests. You want to know what's going on in the world. At the same time, hey, you might be into fashion and you want to post, but sometimes I find that it becomes too much of one thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's been so fulfilling for me for the last few days, posting about the situation in Armenia and having this incredible feedback and response. Granted, it's mostly from the Armenian community that I'm connecting with around the world, but it has been getting so many comments, likes, and shares that at this moment I'm like, oh, good. Like, it's actually paying off. My work is paying off.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just the way it is now. And even I say news personalities now because I've always thought of myself as a journalist, and now I come to feel as though maybe that's not the case. Maybe we're news personalities.
Right.
I don't think they need to be mutually exclusive in any manner, right?
I mean, things have changed.
Yeah.
Things have changed.
I wanted to ask you about that, actually. Two things: the Armenian protests and what you saw out there, but also I wanted to ask you, with the Me Too movement. Obviously, me and Chris were progressives. We support equality. We support empowerment of women across the board. And given that this is a newer kind of, I would like to call it a revolution of some kind, a social revolution, I guess you could say. Have you noticed any major changes in your personal life or in professional life? I mean,
as far as the Me Too movement, I think it's an important movement, and I acknowledge just the fact that it needs to happen. At the same time, I have been very fortunate where I have never experienced anything like that. I've worked with men who've been my bosses. I've have colleagues who've been men throughout. It's not a long career, obviously, but still throughout my whole life, and I've never encountered anything compromising, or I've never found myself in a situation where I felt as though, okay, if they're implying something and if I don't go through with this, then maybe it'll hurt me in my career.
Yeah, right.
Never, ever, ever, ever. Yeah. And looking around, I guess I'm one of the few, and I'm so grateful that I have not had that happen. Yeah. As far as, I'm sorry, the Armenia thing you were asking me about?
We're talking about how things are changing, and change is more evident than ever with protests, and obviously the whole Armenian genocide thing, which definitely needs more light shed upon it, because I feel like
most people don't know about it.
Right, most people don't know about it, and it absolutely was atrocious, and we need to be talking about it for the fear of repeating history.
What's interesting is, first of all, Glendale has the largest concentration of Armenians outside of Armenia.
Yeah.
Right. So that's huge, right? Yeah. So here I am in this community, and obviously, again, when we talk about using your platform to draw attention to certain things, this has become one of those things where every April 24th, we have that giant march. There's a huge turnout. And we commemorate the genocide. This year it was 103 years. The big one was 100 years because there was this hope and thought that perhaps at the 100-year mark there would be some acknowledgement, even by the president of the United States at that time, which did not happen. A lot of people say, it's been so long. Why do you even talk about it? Why do you even care? What's the big deal? Let's move on. But that is part of, I think, our responsibility as a society, as a civilization, as a community, that you acknowledge history, because it happened, and these are facts. And although the current Turkish government denies what happened during the time with the Ottoman government or the Ottoman Empire, this is still something that happened. Exactly. And it's part of your, for me, it's my ancestors. It's you don't just pretend it didn't happen. Exactly, there's this famous quote that Hitler said, and it's not verbatim, but when he was, basically everything was starting before the Holocaust, he said, "Who even remembers the annihilation of the Armenians?" Meaning he used that as an example.
And that was only 30 years before.
Exactly. I mean, it's crazy. So I know genocide happens everywhere now and in different parts of the world, and it's not to take away from what's happening now, and but it's also to acknowledge what happened then.
Yeah. What it comes down to me, because I go to I've done work with the Armenian Youth Foundation and all, and with Congressman Adam Schiff, who's been a great advocate out there. Number one, you're revered by the community, and we're gonna get in heavily into that. For myself, it's transgressions that have occurred against my ethnic people. They kind of predate the Armenian genocide. For me, it comes down to responsibility from the aggressors is important. Like, if you look at during World War II, there's this thing called the rape of Nanking, where Japan and Germany went and raped a lot of minors and things of that nature. And this is heavy subject matter, right? Germany went and they tore down statues, right? They apologized, and I believe they sent money to the Chinese government. That's not to say to buy them off or anything, but they were regretful. And then Japan denies that it occurs. And when I get these things I hear people make the argument, oh well, Obama shouldn't have gone to the he should never go to the UN and call this a genocide and everything, right? Turkey's an ally, and I'm like, there should be our alliance should be towards peace, and it should be towards progress, right? And to say that to wipe out a whole slew of people, right? It's genocide in any manner that you call it. To do that and then to just pretend like it doesn't happen, right? It shouldn't take 5 years, and it definitely shouldn't take 102 years, that's always been my stance on the matter. And I say keep waving the flags, right? And now, number one, when I get to Congress, we're going to get a bill in office where we can make sure that we recognize, right? Just atrocities have no place within this world, and neither do genocide. And anybody that's of the mindset, right, and even if they're listening to this show, if you're of the mindset that we need to get over it or something like that, like really pound sand and stop listening to our show, all right? Get out of our country too, you know? It's like, that's what it comes, I know you can't say that or so, but I'll definitely be the one to say that. It's like number one, like the great contributions by Armenian Americans and just Armenians in general has been huge. And I don't think that we need to look and say that, all right, that history, because it was 100 years ago or something like that, that we shouldn't remember. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I stand in support all day.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the diaspora of Armenians across the world today are a direct response or a direct cause of, the fact that they were removed from their homelands, that they'd been treated like second-class citizens in their own homelands for hundreds of years. I mean, since like the 1500s when they first ratified the treaties and everything. So it's so sad that is such a large it's in your face here in LA. It might not be so much in Small Falls, Idaho, you know what I mean? So,
right.
But it's such a big event that happened. It absolutely bears requirement to acknowledge, because a lot of things are happening currently today that
So
no time for another show.
One question I did have is sort of like, I've gone and talked to the community.
Yes.
I'm out there and about there. How do you you've sort of become like, and I don't know if you feel this way, right? But you sort of become like the role model of the community. Like, I've gone to events where there's other news stations, right, that are saying, hey, you know what? We wanted to get Araksya and all, right? And I hear people in the community saying, you know what? We watch Fox 11 because of Araksya. So how do you kind of deal with that level of clout, right? Because, like, I mean, you're like the Oprah almost.
Okay,
if you
let's
will.
not. Okay, let's hold on.
She doesn't own her own satellite yet.
Thank you very
She's
much,
getting
but
there.
She's getting there.
let's not get carried away.
Okay.
I am beyond lucky, grateful, thankful, and so appreciative of that. I don't know, how that happened, but I take my role very seriously. Yeah. I feel as though I have a duty, and yes, I do see myself as a role model for the younger generations. I think I have this responsibility where I'm American Armenian, but I'm representing my people, the Armenians, in a positive way, and I think that's very important. And so it's an honor to be able to do that, and that's why I'm talking about these current events in Armenia with the prime minister resigning, them trying to elect the opposition leader as prime minister. I'm able to post some of this stuff on social media, and people who are unaware of what's going on in Armenia, or maybe didn't even know where Armenia was, all of a sudden are paying attention to something. And that's the power of using my voice and the position I have. And it's overwhelming in such a wonderful way. Yeah.
She lies at the beautiful crossroads of, like, an important culture and also a generational. You speak to a generation of us millennials and Gen Xers. You're part of our gangs, so to speak. So, we gave you extra credit. We like attention.
Thank you. I think also just remembering your roots. You always have to remember where you come from and what landed you here. Every morning I'm in the studio before the show starts. I kind of look around and I'm just like, wow, like, thank you, God. How did this happen? And I go back to everything. The fact that I was in Armenia, I grew up there. It was the Soviet Union. It was during communism. I remember all of these things. I do. The 1988 earthquake was one of the reasons my family moved to America. That, along with going to war with Azerbaijan over Nagorno-Karabakh, communism coming to an end, those things combined led us to this country. There's this huge past experience that I come with. It's not so. I think sometimes, you were saying you were trying to do research on me. And you said, I went on YouTube and all I see these posts of you, doing the weather or dancing or whatever, and although that's me, that's really not me. There's more to me than that.
Yes, there is. There definitely is.
There's
and
more
if you get caught up on those videos while you're doing your research on Araksya, dig deeper. Promise. There's way more there.
But it's quite funny. With a little bit of history is during World War II, my grandfather had two brothers. One of them, or both of them, went off to war. My grandfather was 13 at the time,
wow.
and he couldn't go to war, so he quit school and he started working to help support his mother and so on and so forth. One of my great uncle, George Tamanjan, he was caught and he was a prisoner. And when the war ended, he didn't go back to Armenia because at the time they viewed that as, well, you got caught, so you were a traitor, or something to that nature. So he didn't go back to his country. And he didn't have contact with his family for many, many, many years. Yeah. And, they didn't even know if he was alive or not. He ended up coming to America. And he didn't even see his mother for 30-something years.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And then one day, he brings her here to this country. But yeah, so you go, when, it's just Staten Island, how that whole story goes when we used to immigrate. And then made his way to Montebello, to California. And then he was the patriarch of our family when things started to fall apart in Armenia, or there were signs of instability. He sent visas to my grandfather and his other brother and all of their family, and we all came together.
Wow, that's awesome.
So when I say it's not a typical immigrant story, it really isn't, because not many people have that kind of support system when they first come to this country, and that's part of the reason I didn't go to Glendale, where most people, that you want to go and be part of the community that you relate to, or it's easier for you to.
It's amazing what a beautiful history that is. And it was hanging by a thread by your grandfather surviving the war and then literally not coming home, instead starting a new life, anchoring down there, and able to bring you guys, all over at once. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, my great uncle was he passed away, but he is the American dream story.
Yeah.
He built himself out of nothing, and then Commerce Casino. Commerce Casino.
Yeah.
He started Commerce Casino at the end.
What? Hold on. Breaking news.
Breaking news.
So
we done broke it.
He
awesome.
He came here. He was like a janitor, or like he worked for a gas station, and then he got into the waste management business and construction and this and that. And then he was very successful in the end. And he used his success. And I remember asking him this. He was very ill at the time. This is a few years back now, and I always said, you are the reason I'm on television right now. You gave us the foundation to do something with ourselves. And he's like, no, I did. As I say, I'm doing my duty. He would always say to me, I was just doing my duty. I'm like, no, it's beyond that. Like, your generosity is beyond you doing your duty. Not many people who are family members do that much for someone, let alone for a group of people. He didn't know me or the rest of my family. I mean, sure, he knew my grandfather and his brother, but the rest of us were strangers. And all of a sudden, we come to this country, and all of his family, they embrace us, and all of our successes have been because of that. So it's just, you don't forget that. You know? And you use that. You use that and work harder to achieve something. You don't get lazy about it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's, sometimes I think that may happen with people that are like, well, okay, this is great. Like, I'm just going to step in and
it's already done for me.
It's all set up for me.
Yeah.
And I mean, my family and I, we have the complete opposite approach, where you just push harder, you work harder. You don't just, take the ride.
Yeah. Right. So so journalism, I'd love to kind of get into that, why Syracuse, right? Or first, why journalism?
I don't know.
Then why Syracuse? What's inspired that?
I really don't know. And like, people ask me that
She's
all
like, I hate
the
this
time.
question.
Like, why'd you go to Syracuse University? Great question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I envisioned myself going to the East Coast for college, and so there were a number of places I was looking at, and Syracuse gave me a grant, and then I also happened to go on a day where the snow had just melted, and everyone was outside, and everyone was in the best mood.
It looked happy,
And I looked around.
They do that on purpose, but this store was on purpose.
I looked around and I thought,
May.
what a great place! Like, everyone's so happy. This is a beautiful campus.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll go here.
Yeah.
And then I go. Not majoring in broadcast journalism, by the way. I didn't even know what Newhouse School of Communications was, which is funny because it's one of the best schools. I just went, and I majored in political science and international relations, actually, and then minored in political science. And so I, the second year, while I was suffering through the horrible winter, I was like, what is this Newhouse thing?
Yeah.
Maybe I should if I'm gonna be stuck here, maybe I should, major in that.
Yeah.
At least leave here with something worthwhile. So that's kind of how it happened, which is crazy.
So you
prior
did the
to
exact
that,
opposite of me, where I was
you wanted
broadcast
that?
journalism,
Yeah.
then I did political science.
Complete opposite.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I thought I wanted to be a well, when you're Armenian, it's like you have to be a doctor or a lawyer. That's like success, right? Doctor. That's like hammered into our heads.
Yeah.
I wanted to be that, I thought, but then I volunteered at a hospital and I was like, this is the most depressing place ever.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't have it in me. I can't do it. Then I wanted to be in politics, so I went to Georgetown University for this summer program.
Nice. Yeah.
I interned for Congresswoman Jane Harmon.
Oh, nice.
I was like,
right
okay,
on.
I think I like this. And then I quickly realized, no, I don't like this at all. So I end up in this broadcast journalism major. On graduation day, I'm looking around in my cap and gown. I'm like, I don't even know if I like this.
Yeah.
All these people have jobs lined up. They've done internships. They're focused. I haven't even done a single internship.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't even know if I want to do this.
Uh-huh.
So.
And how many of those people are on TV right now? I wonder.
I don't even know. Yeah, a lot of them switched over to PR.
Is that
That's
right?
like
All
kind
right.
of the route you take.
That's,
Public relations when broadcasting doesn't work out or you get burnt out or tired of it all.
Right.
So I graduated, came home, and spent most of my days for a while going to coffee shops and reading The Economist. I felt as though I was being useful.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to sit here with my cup of coffee. I'm going to highlight The Economist, read important articles, and look like I know what I'm doing with my life. Meanwhile, I'm like, what am I doing with my life? So I ended up going to Armenia that summer after graduating, and usually when you visit a country, you do all the nice things, the touristy things.
Museums, parks.
Yeah. Wining and dining, visiting people, this party, that party. And I don't know, maybe I was bored, maybe I just wanted something with meaning. I grabbed a camcorder and I went out and started interviewing people. I went to an elderly home, a psychiatric ward, a school. I wanted to visit a jail really bad, but they were like, what?
Yeah,
no, that doesn't.
wild.
You don't go to a jail to visit. Where are you from? Oh, you live in America? You think you can just walk into a jail and look around?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
So I started doing things like that and recording it, or interviewing random people on the street, everyday people, like the lady who sells sunflower seeds in the corner, or. And this theme started developing where it was almost like me asking people, was life better off now without communism, now that it's over, or when communism? When there was communism. Because I remember as a kid, all I heard about was, oh, when is Gorbachev going to leave? When is communism going to end?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, a lot of these people were, the older ones obviously, were talking about how great communism was. Because at least then there was a guarantee of, I have, this much bread to put on the table no matter what.
No matter what,
All of a sudden, when you go from that to a democracy, things don't go so well. Things don't go so well. You've got
winners and losers.
Yes, and you've got corruption.
Yep.
You have the really wealthy through corruption.
I think corruption is the number one problem with capitalism. That's the number one corruption. It permeates all facets of society.
Well, and that's what's happening right now in Armenia, in the sense that it's years of buildup that has led to this, where the president, who was president for 10 years, then decided not to run again, obviously, and then he said, I'm going to just be prime minister. There was a referendum where it shifted powers and made prime minister's position more powerful. Kind of like what happened in Russia with Putin.
I was going to say with Putin. Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like it's almost like the same thing.
Playbook,
Yeah, exactly. And so that's when people decided that, wait a minute, you said you weren't going to do that. What is going on? And they'd had enough. And so you've had these demonstrations occur. You've had an opposition leader take center stage in a way, lead this movement where people, through peaceful protests, I want to emphasize that, because it is remarkable that really it's just about let our voices be heard. Let us just show you we're against this in a non-violent way. I think the world is watching because of that, because things can go wrong so easily with such things, and I really hope that they don't, because today there was a vote and the parliament did not vote Nicole Pashinyan into power for prime minister, but they'll vote again, I think, in 7 days or so. So anyway, What was the question?
No,
We're
questioning
we're
all
just
of this.
discussing.
Yeah.
How did we lead into this?
Well, we were talking. I think we were talking about you went to Armenia for the summer, and
you start interviewing people about the benefits of communism versus capitalism.
There we go. Okay, how did we end up here?
Yeah.
See, this is what happens when you wake up at 1:45 in the morning.
Right. Yeah.
This is my crashing time. Does anyone have like a Red Bull or a cup of coffee?
We'll grab a beer. We can grab a beer after.
A beer.
She needs to wake up. Let's get her a beer.
Right. I like the way you think.
Yeah.
I like the way
It'll
you think.
It'll be a coffee stout or a coffee porter.
No, but yes, that's what. So the theme developed in that sense. I came back home. I have all these tapes. One day I say I'll do something with them. I don't know, make a documentary or something.
Dude, that'd be so cool to like do like an old throwback to the early days of how you got your start. It'd be great of a part of an autobiography.
It might be cool.
It
might be cool. I have these DVC pro tapes. I have to figure out how to transfer them.
Yeah.
They're so
we
old.
need to submit this to the Oscars. If Kobe Bryant can win an Oscar, so can this. Like this is
So then I interned at KFI Radio,
Yeah.
KABC, City Cable Torrance. They have this great program for reporters where you actually go and you're the reporter. It's wonderful.
Wow.
So I did all of them at once. I go from I'm all or nothing in my life.
Yeah.
So
Good.
from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
So life is a numbers game anyway. You just gotta invest. And
Coffee and The Economist to 3 jobs. All
At the same time.
Yeah,
Imagine driving on those freeways for 3 internships.
Oh yeah, wow.
And then just put a tape together. Boom, boom, boom. Before I know it, I'm in Idaho Falls. Don't ask me why.
Now, how was it out there?
It's different.
Yeah.
Not many Araksias.
No.
There's not many Chris's
No
there.
large Canadian population.
A lot of Matt.
A lot of Germans. Yeah. A lot of Norwegians.
A lot of Matt Fine
Yes.
out there.
I mean, it was interesting. My news director had said, you should change your name. Have you thought about changing your name? Well, to make it easier for people. It was like a joke, like Roxy Carpy or something.
What?
I'm like, no.
They asked me to change my name,
You're not Tendon Bar.
No.
The dive bar downtown.
They wanted to change your name.
Yeah, they did.
To what?
They're just like, can it be Seth or like...
What's
Seth?
Yeah, I was like, that's less... Yeah.
Chris Wiggins sounds completely legit.
Yeah.
I understand why they would have to change it. Matt Feige, on the other hand, I understand.
Legit, I've gone to like events, right? I've gone to like really African American events, and they go, "Can we change your first name? My middle name's Blake." So they go, "We need to change both
What?
to Bakari or something."
Chris Blake Wiggins.
Okay, yeah,
I can see that.
Chris Blake Wiggins doesn't
Strange.
work, right? I was like, I've had that, and then like back in I had like intern with some Republicans, and they asked me to change my. They're like, "Can we make it like Seth or something like that?" And I was like,
I think your name is great.
Thank you, I appreciate
such
that.
a nice...
Yeah,
I don't understand the name change.
Yeah, name changes are like it's like unless it's gonna be like for
Wolf Blitzer.
like Flavor Flav or something like that. Yeah, like unless it's like you get like a nice like a legit nickname that you like Ice Cube.
Yeah.
That's a great name change, right?
Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel, yeah, but like just
These are not the real names,
yeah.
by the way. These are name changes. Vin
Yeah.
Diesel, Wolf Blitzer.
Yeah, like Araksya is that's a brand.
And also it's genuine too. You want to maintain your authenticity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your name's a brand. Like, yeah.
I should just drop the last name.
No, keep that too. I'll keep that. Yeah, just
Araksya.
Well, I
Araksya,
mean,
just one word like Madonna. Like that's it.
You are the next Oprah, so like people don't even know that her last
okay.
name's Winfrey anymore. It's just
You are
Oprah.
too funny.
All right, so yeah, just Araksya. Yeah, it's no. So now how do you? What I've always been impressed, like even because when I did journalism and we'd report on just really weird stories from the crappy place of Denton, Texas. All right, and I would just like I'd break out and just you can tell my disdain for some stories. How do you kind of keep a straight face from reporting some of the more inane and like bat crazy stuff that you have to report on sometimes?
Yeah,
how do you mean that objectivity?
When you were out there reporting, you mean, not like sitting behind.
Well, even no, just not even reporting. Sorry, I was never reporting. When I was an anchor, right, the North Texas television station, North Texas TV, right, I'd get something come across that like they would say this is kind of important, yada yada. It's great practice, right? And then I just couldn't keep a straight face during it. How do you when you hear about the story and then it comes out of your mouth when you're talking about what happened, like maybe Guy runs across the street with like underpants on fire or something like that, right? And right, how do you like?
You don't keep a straight face for that.
Yeah.
If it's a guy running down the street with his underpants on fire, granted, if he's not hurt or has degrees to 80% of his body, then we might laugh about it, and we might actually laugh about it.
Okay, all right.
See, that's the thing. I think you have to be authentic and real, and you can't report something that's ridiculous and act like it isn't.
Right.
Because It's just like when it's common at live television, you're talking for so long, you make mistakes. I'm a big fan of acknowledging your mistake. Yeah. Sometimes the teleprompter goes too fast or too slow, or sometimes you just screw it up. Yeah. And instead of pretending it didn't happen and keep going, I'll call attention to it, or I'll be like, hold on, wait a minute, let me start over.
So no Ron Burgundy.
No Bill O'Reilly, for that matter. We're doing it live.
Kind of. We're doing it live. No, you always have to do it live because that's what people, I think, like. They don't want the formality of it, the polished anchor. You got to break that. And I don't think I've ever been that. I don't think I can be that. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's just better to just be yourself. Yeah.
So if you hear like a crazy, so let's say that there's some story or whatever, right? Maybe you have how do you maintain the objectivity when you probably when you have to sort of report on it and deliver that news, right? But maybe it's against like your personal beliefs or so. Like that level of objectivity, I've always found quite fascinating. Like you look at a NBC Nightly News or anything like that, or even just on Fox 11, right? How do you kind of maintain that? Like that's what I've always been impressed about, though.
Well, I mean, in that case, then I'm choosing to not get too real. Yeah. I'm just choosing to stick to the facts of, well, this is what was said, this is what happened, boom, 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 and I'm ready to move on. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to discuss it.
Professionalism.
There you go.
I watch you guys have Milo, and not get into politics, right? I watch you guys have, Milo Giannopoulos on, last summer, right? And, you guys are extremely fair in interviewing him and everything. And I'm just sitting there all right, this guy could legit come on and say whatever inane thing, right? And, of course, they would keep him to the facts, right? But I was just, so impressed by that. Just to,
I didn't do that interview, so I can't speak right? to that. Yeah. Okay, all right. Yeah. But, when you have people like old-time veterans who are real professionals, they are able to navigate that well that that's more of one of those things you watch and you learn from. You know? Yeah. That's a tough thing to do when you have controversial guests. That's hard. Yeah. Yeah. But you have to be fair, and you also have to, I think, keep in mind as a viewer, they're watching and they probably want you to ask those obvious questions that they would ask. So you have to go beyond being friendly and just a gracious host, and also be a tough interview.
Yeah, definitely.
And do it justice.
So what kind of things did you learn from having teamed up with Tony and Steve Edwards and the Lisa Breckenridges and these great institutions, right? What kind of things did they teach you upon kind of starting out and over the years of having worked with them?
I think the reason I have my kind of authentic, natural way about me, I don't know. I feel weird even talking about it. I feel like I'm complimenting myself.
No.
What I mean is, I think because I'm not sticking to you go to school and you're like, I'm going to be a professional news anchor, and I'm going to lower my voice, and I'm going to hold my hands like this.
Also sound like me.
No, but know there's this perception you have that you want to be taken seriously, and you first come out of college, you want to be taken seriously, you want to appear older, and so you start wearing blazers and you start lowering your voice. No, those are stylish women's blazers.
This is a men's blazer. Thank you.
Very nice. You're wearing it with jeans, so it's very stylish. You start lowering your voice. You start, you behave the way you think a news anchor should be. You have to drop that. Yeah. And be you. And that's probably the best and biggest lesson. You are at your best, not because you pronounced all the words correctly or you nailed that read in the teleprompter. Yeah. You're your best when you can ad-lib. Yeah. You can, things go wrong and you learn how to acknowledge what went wrong and make it natural because you're being yourself. When things go wrong and how you behave, that is the true test of how good you are at your job, I think. And so I think that's the best thing I've learned is to just be you. Yeah. No one is perfect, and people see through all that.
Yeah. It's so relatable these days, with the whole pulling back of the curtain thanks to social media. We're able to delve into each other's lives so easily. Yes. Being authentic is more important than ever these days because people can spot a fake like that.
Well, think about it. Reality TV. Yeah. That's what people, that's how it all kind of began, right? Yeah. People want to see the behind the scenes. You want to see how the sausage is made. That's what you want to see. You want to see all that. You don't want to see just exterior, the polished appearance of
Right.
something. I'm a big fan of seeing all those.
I love set design.
Yeah. All the tidbits. All the.
So now I know a bunch of things I need to work on myself.
You can keep wearing your suit.
It's
very nice. Very dapper.
Yeah, I've had people come up, like I get invited on like dating shows and game shows like constantly, like usually about 3 a month, and I'll go through like test reels on them, and they go, "You appear very stiff."
Wait, to go and be a participant?
Yeah. Like I'm always invited. Like I don't know why. Like the
Are you on a list or something? Or
I don't know. I hope not.
You must be.
you must be.
Yeah.
You're on some sort of talent list.
Matt's like, I've never gotten a call.
Yeah, no.
Gabe's like, no one calls me.
No one
I
calls
think
me ever.
they must have saw the 2 episodes of Pensacola Wings of Gold I did when I was like 5 or something like that. So
That must have been it.
Yeah, they're like,
That's
you know what?
it.
This is the
That's
best
it.
extra in the history of a syndicated crappy show. No, I get, and then like they'll go, "You're stiff, right? You need to loosen up. Your voice is just it just doesn't
You
work."
have a great voice.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I think they go, it doesn't translate to dates and doesn't translate on a game show, right? And I was like, okay, I don't really know what to do to change it.
Did they ask to change your name too?
Yeah. Oh yeah, big time. Yeah. Like your name
Damn
be
reality
Malik.
TV.
Malik.
Yeah,
Malik.
change your name to Malik, and can we change the story and add like a little sob into it? No,
Yeah.
That's always like that's great. The level of being able to be authentic and letting the personality show, because that's what makes us want to keep watching somebody. It's like with Kent Brockman from The Simpsons. Like nobody will watch that guy if he was like in real life. This is Kent Brockman for 6 News, right?
Yeah, those days are gone.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
You
that's
know?
what the
Dan
hounds
Rather
do.
is still really active on social media, but he kind of helps set that pace.
Yeah.
in the early days,
Now, are we?
I'm wondering who watches the news, though.
Right.
Do you guys wake up and watch the news? Let's be honest. Where do you get your content from? On social media, right?
Yeah, most of
What's
it's
the
on
first
that.
thing you do when you wake up?
Check social media.
Yep.
See what's going on.
I brush my teeth and then I turn on Fox 11.
You're lying.
No, yeah.
The first thing I do when I wake up is
Yeah.
look at my phone.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
And-
yeah.
And that's the truth.
Yeah.
That's,
Mhm.
You already know what's happening
Yeah.
before you turn on the news.
That's true,
You
yeah.
can, at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
And in the evening, you already know what's happened
Yeah.
because it's been everywhere.
Yeah.
So why would you turn on to watch the news? You're going to turn on either out of habit
Mhm.
or maybe you feel like you have this connection to
Yeah.
the people.
The local community.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or it's just
Out of
the
habit.
personalities. You just like it's a ritual. Like
Yes.
I'm gonna put the TV on, and while I'm making my coffee and getting dressed, brushing my teeth, I want that
Yeah.
background noise / that's kind of fun to see what they're up to.
Just
Yeah.
live back and forth.
Yeah.
You get the feel that
Yeah.
you're in the community. The community's alive. Things are happening without you having to be there.
Yeah.
I can see the appeal.
Things are just so who knows where the news business will be years from now because things are changing
Yeah.
so quickly. Technology's ahead of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're gonna have to catch up with social media. I
Yeah.
think, because right now they're giving us the news at a slow pace compared to how we can get it online and with
Yeah.
our mobile phones. So they're gonna have to catch up. We have 24-hour news cycles where they only talk about 3 major things.
Right.
That's gonna have to change. They're gonna have to talk about a major thing every 30 minutes, a new major. Because in this day and age, especially under this administration, we have a new crazy thing happening every minute practically.
Yeah.
So
And it's almost like we view things with headlines,
Yeah.
right?
mm,
No one wants to read the giant article that you post,
Yeah.
or
Right.
The
it's just like
Economist.
these forget the Economist; those days are gone.
yeah.
Not sitting there with a highlighter anymore.
Yeah.
No, but it's like Twitter. You have a limit to how
Yeah.
what can be posted, and therefore you quickly get the headlines. You grasp the concept of what's
The
going on.
snackable content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
And then you move on to the next thing. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, what's going 5 things. Let me see.
Mhm.
Boom, 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 boom,
Yep.
boom. Okay, I feel like I'm informed. Let me
Yeah.
go out the
Yeah.
door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Now-
in a nutshell.
Your family owned a deli growing up. Is
They
this
still
true?
do.
They still do. Oh, all right.
It's
Okay,
a-
where is it at? First and foremost, let our viewers know where it's
Yeah,
at.
where is it
All
started?
right.
It's called Malaga Cove Ranch Market.
Okay.
It's in Palos Verdes,
Okay.
and it's a market. It's
Yeah.
a store, and it has a deli. People,
Okay.
it's not like anyone's really going to shop. It's for
Yeah.
the food.
It's
It's,
for- yeah.
a deli.
Yeah.
So we all, and I say we all, myself and my cousin, sister included,
Mhm.
we all grew up working there. So
Oh,
I
solid.
always
Yeah.
kind
Cool.
of talk about, where you develop your work ethic and your values and so on and so forth. It comes from, it was a family business, and we
Yeah.
all pitched in and we all did what we could. And
Mhm.
up until having my daughter, I still would kind of help out as much as I could
Ooh,
here and
nice,
there.
yeah.
But everyone else, I can't take full credit. My sister and my cousins, they definitely, when it's like Thanksgiving and it's the big turkey catering orders, they leave, they after they come home from being lawyers or dentists or whatever, they like go and help out like
That's
on the
so
way
cool.
home.
Yeah.
So, and my grandfather, who is 90 years old, he just turned 90. He works there.
Nice, yeah.
He does like all the inventory, and it's really nice. What's actually really interesting, when during the time of communism, when my grandfather was a little boy, my grandfather's brother, so my great grandfather, my grandfather's father, excuse me, so my great grandfather, he owned a store, like a market, a small one, and in communism you can't have private businesses, and so he was paying high-level taxes in order to keep his business. But they took it away from him because like you can't own it's government, it's government property, and then they sent him off to Siberia to a gulag.
As punishment, even though he's paying his taxes.
Yes, they wanted to just like get rid of him. So he tried to escape, and he was shot and killed. So I say this because now I look at that market and my family, and then I look at my grandfather. And he was a little boy when this happened to his father. And now here we are. All of these years have gone by. We're in America, and he's at this market that, is thriving and doing well. And all of his family worked and made this possible. And it's just the backstory of that is just so, it kind of gives me chills when I think about it.
I can imagine,
It just, I don't know, a lot there,
Yeah.
Nice.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's such a great, wonderful story, and it's brought you full circle to be somebody in the world who's able to afford a platform to tell your story. It's pretty awesome.
No, it is. Yeah. I'd say what's challenging is now that I have a daughter who will be two soon.
All right.
Congrats.
And what is her name again?
Thank you. She's a handful. Sevon.
Savon, yes.
Sevon, yeah.
Sevon.
She's terrible twos are a real thing, I tell you.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't believe it, but they
No,
exist.
Yeah. They're just asserting their dominance over you.
Which I like. I like having that strong will, the stubborn independence, great qualities down the line. Right now, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is tough. But I'm trying to find that balance of being a mother, you're a wife, you're working, your family. So much of prior to even getting married, I still was very career focused, career oriented, and I still care very much about it, of course. But so much changes, and people tell you that all the time, and I don't want to sound corny because I always roll my eyes like, okay. But it's so true. Having a child changes everything for the better.
It puts everything in perspective, right?
Completely. You become a better person. You want to be a better person. You see the world in a different way. You just, it's probably the greatest thing, the greatest gift. Because you almost have this do-over in life. It's like you have this person who everything maybe you didn't do or didn't do right, you want to do well. And this person's going to represent you now. I don't know. That's kind of how I see it.
No, that's exactly it. It's it's they. And I hate to use the term like they're like your legacy or so, but they sort of is.
Yeah,
It's sort of right. They do well. They look back and say, "Oh, your parents just did like I'm pretty like people are probably like Eminem. Your mom must be great, right?" Even though he insults her, right? Like they're probably, "Oh, your mom had been great. Look what you've accomplished, right?" But it does become that, right? Like their success, becomes of you, right? And then you're invested in them so much, right? They're your little business, basically.
You guys don't have kids, right?
Not yet.
No, we don't. No.
You want kids?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I did. So I thought like muted because like now like people are gonna like hit me up like Chris, we knew you told us you didn't want kids and stuff like that. So
your dating show after went through the roof.
I think I've told a few people. Like my grandma's been like since I was like 9. My grandma's been asking when I'm gonna make a grandbaby from her.
Wow.
And I was like, all right.
That's old school.
Yeah. It's like,
that's old school South. Old school.
I was like, interesting, right? And so and then my sister really wants me to, since I have a 16-year-old niece, she really wants my niece to have a cousin, but it's kind of a moot point.
Well,
Like,
you
she's
first
16. Yeah.
let's step by step here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's find you a date on one of these
on the
shows you go on,
All right.
and then we'll take it to the
Yeah.
next level and see where things progress.
I know 2 of the shows are like perfect. It was Araksya is helping us out big time. He's finally going to say yes. It's yeah. So no, I'd love to have kids, particularly if they acted just like me.
You want to clone?
Yeah, I want to force that. Like I'm gonna make them dress like me.
All right, so your kid, that would be a lot. Honestly, 5 little mini me's running around. I don't know if I can handle it.
Yeah, LA doesn't want to see that.
LA doesn't want to see that.
No, too much. Yeah, all running for office and stuff. It's not a good
Be a
situation.
political
Indubitably.
dynasty.
Yes,
Indubitably.
yes.
Well, I just want to thank you guys. Chris, great job again this week, and Araksya, thank
Are we
you.
done? That was so fast.
I think we are. Are we
Yeah.
wrapping it
Wow.
up?
Yeah, we
Good
look,
times.
We got a
Yeah.
lot. We got a chance to learn so much about you, the great institution.
For better
in
or
boxing.
worse.
No.
Oh yeah, for better.
For better, for
Yeah,
sure,
for sure.
right? Yes, the elder statesman at Fox 11 now. All right, you are the institution. So.
Oh, okay.
Not elder, the classic statesman, stateswoman.
It's only been 6 years,
It's only
but
been
we'll see.
There's gravitas there for sure.
I think Cersei Lannister's been on for 6 years now. Is that correct?
Who?
Are you
Who?
the Cersei? Oh, we're not
Cersei?
plugging Game of Thrones or no? Okay.
No,
That's
I
fine.
have.
You know I don't watch that.
You don't watch Game of
I
Thrones.
just know one thing: winter is coming.
No, all right.
That's it.
That is right.
I just know Peter Dinklage. That's it.
No.
Yeah, saw him in person once. That's it. Yeah. So tell everyone where we can find Araksya.
Yeah, we can find Araksya on Fox 11 Monday through Friday, 4:30 to 7, and you can check out her family's restaurant, Malaga Cove Ranch Market.
Deli. Let's not get carried away.
Okay.
It's not a full-on restaurant.
Hey, I bet you can go there and get some food. So
Yes, you can.
It has great Yelp reviews, so it counts as a restaurant.
if you're in Palos Verdes, hit them up. It's
that's
a great
right.
place to eat. Also, you can hit up Araksya on her Instagram at Araksya.
Yep.
And Araksya Karapetyan. Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
That was
Thanks.
fun. Thank you for wanting to talk to me.
Oh, thanks for being
Thanks.
for being here,
Yeah.
and thanks for giving us a chance to learn so much more about you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. For the last retort, this is Chris. We got Araksya here. We got Matt. We'll see y'all next week.
Yeah.